What's going on, everybody? We're back. This is the first week with buys, and everybody is losing their goddamn mind. It's gonna be great. Joe, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm sad about the buys because there are a lot of good offenses.
There are. What is it? It's Atlanta, Denver, New Orleans, and Washington this week, right?
Washington,
Yeah.
a
So
lot of good offenses.
yeah, we're losing a lot of people that have multiple options that you can use in DFS. We're losing a lot of people that you probably drafted pretty highly. It's one of those weeks where it's one of the tougher buys. This isn't even the one with the most teams as far as bye weeks are concerned, but it's the first one, so that's always tough. And then it's good offenses, like you said, so that also makes it a bit difficult too. So it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
actually a really relatively small bye week, only four teams, but they're just four teams that are just highly owned, and all of the quarterbacks are owned at this point because people think Simeon's good when he's not, and like all of those teams have really good receivers who were drafted high.
right, right. And then I mean, there's several running backs of those crews that were either drafted or are viable at this point, right? Whether we think it or not. Or
There
whether
should
we
be,
thought at the
but there
beginning of
are.
the season. Well, I mean, at this point, at
There's C.J. Anderson.
there's CJ Anderson. I mean, Chris Thompson in PPR leagues is viable for at least a flex option, if for nothing else. Kamara at some point going forward in the season
Yeah,
might be viable as a
for
flex
PPR.
option for PPR as well. Freeman and
Yeah,
Coleman
sure.
are obviously
Yeah, of course,
options
those
as
guys.
well. So it's just like you said, it's one of those weeks where it's good offenses. So, but no matter what, if you listen to us during the offseason and you did things that we talked about for pre-draft, you should be looking at your squad and saying, hey, I'm navigating these bye weeks pretty well. And that's because we talked about drafting so many running backs and wide receivers, because there's more weeks with buys than there are not weeks with buys, right? And then there's also people obviously been
That's right.
injured and stuff like that. So if you feel like you've got a pretty deep team, hopefully hopefully that's a result of having drafted well and
It
not.
was a brutal injury week.
Yeah, it was.
Just brutal.
It
I
was.
mean, Dalvin Cook and Mariota are two of the bigger names, but Carson went down. Derek Carr is out for a while.
Yep.
Odell Beckham hurt his ankle again. Julio left early. It was just brutal.
Yep. Yeah, it was a bit of a rough one. Losing Dalvin Cook for the year is obviously probably the worst injury that came away from everything, because I would just say it's the longest injury to a spot that's already thin. Carson's probably, I don't know about next, but two running backs in 1 week is really tough for the entire season. There's talk about Carson maybe coming back later on in the season, but I don't know that that's. I mean, he had surgery on his ankle. I don't know how practical that will be, maybe for the fantasy playoffs. And then
He broke his leg and his ankle. He's not coming back.
I mean, losing
Or he broke his
Derek.
leg and sprained his ankle. He's not coming. Like, you can't do rehab on both at the same time, so he's not coming back.
That's true. And then also losing Derek Carr for 2 to 6 weeks. I mean, the uncertainty is bad enough as it is, and then the potential for 6 weeks is also bad as well. So it was a rough injury week, and then especially losing Julio with the hip early in the game, and then him going into bye week. It's like it's just back to back. It kind of sucks. So we're gonna go over these games one by one, because that seems to be what people like the most. So we're going to talk about each of them one by one, and then we'll move forward from there. We'll talk about a few waiver wire things. We'll talk about what games we're kind of targeting this week as far as DFS is concerned and everything. And then also we may bring up some season long things that are a bit more specific, not just for DFS and stuff like that. So we're gonna go over the game. So the first one is, we got tomorrow night's game is Patriots Bucks. Joe, this one is a bit unfortunate. this is it's not unfortunate. It only sucks if you're looking to play the DFS slate and you don't want to play the Thursday Monday, because you have the number one passing offense that also has the 32nd ranked passing defense, and then you have the third ranked passing offense that also has the 31st ranked passing defense. Like, this is the game. If you've ever wanted to see one, this is the one for fantasy owners, and it gets taken away from us because it's on a dumb Thursday night game, and I'm sure it'll be underwhelming, to say the least. What do you think about this game?
It's a shame that it's not on a Sunday.
Yeah.
We should be clear at this point, until the Patriots will fix their defense. They probably won't fix it this week on a short week. They're not going to become like the best defense in the league, but it will get better. They're too talented, and Bill is still there, so like it will be fixed. They're going to be a top 15 defense like at least the last 8 weeks of the season. That being said, until they fix it and look like they are going to at least show up on that end, put every single game that they're involved in, you want to get as many players in that game as they're the game of the week every week, because they will drive the other team to score because their offense is so good, and they apparently aren't interested in defending anybody at this point. So just be involved. It sucks that it's on a Thursday, but this is one of the Thursday games that you really want to be a part of. I have a feeling that Jameis is going to throw like 3 picks in this game. But that being said, like if you have him, play him. Like there's no reason that I should think that. I just always think he's going to throw 3 picks in every game. And I trust Bill on a short week actually more than I trust anybody else. But yeah, fire everybody up in this game if in your standard league, in your draft leagues.
Yeah,
everybody.
I mean, season-long leagues in season. I don't know. I understand.
For 2 days.
I understand, and we've given hesitation to this in the past, and there is definite reason for it. If he's your only option, because some people have drafted Doug Martin and they were thin at running back otherwise, there are some situations where I would say it's okay to play him. But you're right, on a short week, he's been practicing for 2 days. This is his first time back. I do trust Bill more than I trust pretty much anybody else. And also, this should be a high-flying game, less than a run-heavy game. And Doug Martin is just going to be emphasized more in the running game than the passing game. So you'll probably see a lot of Quiz and Sims still. It's funny that you bring up the 3 picks for Winston. Winston could just as easily throw 3 picks and still throw 4 touchdowns in this game. Like that's how high flying that's how high flying this game probably should be. And you're right, the Patriots are going to drive people to score, and primarily if you have a good passing offense playing against them, you should just fire everyone possible up in any game that they play, at least until they fix their defense. I do side with you on the idea that they'll fix their defense at least for a portion of the season and at least improve it. I don't know how good it'll be even once it is fixed, but I do trust Bill more than anyone else in the league, regardless of whether it's a short week or not, and I do think that he'll fix it at some point. But until then, that offense is going to drive people to score, so you should be looking at them as the game of the week every single week. It just so happens that this is an extra juicy one because they also have a bad passing defense on the other side and a good passing offense on the other side. So if I would be looking at this as the game of the week if it was played on any other day besides the Thursday. So, yeah, fire everyone up in this one. Joe, what's your thought on Gronkowski's thigh injury that came out today? What are you doing, with regards to that?
If he plays, play him. If he doesn't, don't play him.
Yeah, that's basically the only like extra sneaky option I would offer people in season-long leagues, if this is sort of the way, if you're really worried about it, because tight ends are so bad, if you want to grab Dwayne Allen just in case Gronk doesn't play, and then if he does, drop him so that you can pick someone else up for the weekend. Like, I think that's a viable option. I don't love Dwayne Allen in any way, but I understand if that's how you want to proceed with it, like that's a potential option. But yeah, if Gronk's playing, play him. If he's not, then sit him. That's pretty easy. So first game on Sunday, Joe, we got 49ers Colts. This should also be an interesting game, at least as far as the offenses are concerned. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of defensive power in this game. Who do you want from each side? What do you think? What are your thoughts on this game?
I want a lot of Carlos Hyde. I think the 49ers don't want Brian Hoyer to throw because he's really bad at it, at least this season. I don't know what's wrong with him. Like, normally he's been at least competent, and this year he's just been awful. He's really crippled them, I think, a lot. So I want a lot of Carlos Hyde, and I'm not afraid of Pierre Garçon. He's going to get 10 targets against a pretty bad defense. But other than that, the Colts have actually been more competent on defense than they have any right to be. They've held teams that are okay on offense to pretty low scores, or lower than I would hoped, because we bet against them a lot. And, I'm not, crazy about any other 49ers. It's just the same ones as always, really, here. If you want to throw, Goodwin's, going through concussion protocols, so you may not even play.
And they haven't been targeting him downfield the same way that they were the initial couple of weeks of the season, yeah.
So, on the Niners side, that's really all I want. Like, I'm very excited about Carlos Hyde in this game, and I feel like Pierre Garçon is going to be, like, normal. Like, he's going to get, like, 10 targets, and, he'll probably catch at least 5 of them. Like, he's got a good floor. Probably not going to get a touchdown because he's probably never going to get a touchdown. So, like, he'll get one eventually, but, like, in any given week, it's probably not.
Yeah, you'll have no idea when it's going to come, and there'll probably be 3, maybe 4 touchdowns this year. He could have a 2-touchdown game, right? Like, just waste 2 of them in one game, so that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you'll never know when it's going to be. It'll be against the toughest defense or some shit like that. I mean, I agree. I want Hyde and Garçon in this game, and that's pretty much all I want. I don't know, when I watch Hoyer this year, I don't find that he's a ton different than he's ever been in the past. I don't know the reasoning behind why he's been less than average this year as opposed to the regular average that he's been all the other time. I do think that I have to chalk it up some to their offensive line. While they've been really good in moving the run game forward, in pass block they've really struggled a lot more. And so I have to attribute that to maybe some of it. I don't know why it is other than that, though. On the Colts side of the ball, I don't know how much I love their offensive line is still bad. Brissett can move a bit, and he's tough to bring down, so I guess I trust him enough to deliver the ball, at least to T.Y. a little bit, maybe involve Moncrief for the 3 or 4 targets that he's been getting a week. It hasn't really been impressive, particularly to me. Jack Doyle is still hurt, I believe, and so I also don't love the tight end option there, really, any. So I don't really want anybody on the Colts side specifically. If I have T.Y. Hilton, I'm playing him. But I don't know that I'm necessarily targeting anyone. And you're right, the Colts have been a little bit more competent, but I don't think that they'll be necessarily I don't think they're necessarily going to put a dent in the production of Garçon and Hyde in this one particularly.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to go nuts.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to see 400 yards out of
It's not like an obvious. It's not like an obvious. Like at the beginning of the season and last year, the Colts, like anybody playing against the Colts, you just play that guy because they were going to get 100 rushing yards. They're so bad. They're better than that on defense this year. I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Yeah, no doubt.
Sneaker number 2 of the week, Jets Browns. Getting them out of the way early.
Joe, how badly do you want any tight end that plays against the Browns?
I mean, we said it last week with Tyler Kroft, and it wasn't because we think Tyler Kroft is good.
No.
Like, we don't. It's that the Browns don't cover tight ends. They have shown no interest in doing that this year. I don't know why. They just literally leave them wide open. And, it's the same thing this week. Like, if you're in a season-long league and you, like, need a tight end, like if Gronk doesn't play or something, you can pick up Austin Seferian-Jenkins as a streaming play. And in DFS, he's really cheap because he's not good at football. But doesn't matter if you're good at football. You just need to catch it when you're open because the Browns aren't going to cover you. So he's a good play in DFS. Like, I wish it was someone better because then I would be really excited about it.
Yeah, I'd be super excited about him.
But he's a sneaky play this week in the same way that Tyler Kroft was last week. Like, Tyler Kroft isn't good, and he got 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So
I will say that the only benefit that somebody like Tyler Kroft has over somebody like Austin Seferian-Jenkins is that the tight end in general is just more involved in the Bengals offense than they are in the Jets offense, particularly. So I think that there's a good chance that Elijah McGuire and or Bilal Powell could have another good rushing day this week. I mean, they rushed combined for like 32 attempts last week and caught another 4 or 5 passes. I mean, they're definitely the most involved of the entire offense. And as long as Matt Forte is down, I mean, they're the best players on the field, and they're going to get the most touches because they don't have to. Josh McCown doesn't have to deliver the ball anywhere. But I do like Austin Seferian-Jenkins this week just strictly because the Browns are so incompetent against the tight end. There is something that you should be careful of, though. He only has, I think, 9 targets over the last like 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe somewhere right around there. And in DFS, he's actually a little bit more expensive than he should be. I'm pretty sure literally just because he's playing against the Browns. Like, he should be a minimum cost tight end, but he's somewhere around $3,500. I think he's $3,500 this week. So do be careful of that. Like, they are starting to price people against the Browns because they know how bad they are against the tight end. So, yeah. it's too obvious though. They just don't cover them. Like I don't know how.
So bad.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Like I don't know how they can leave them so open, and until they start doing any type of covering of the tight end whatsoever, like I'm just gonna fire them up every single week. What about on the Brown side? Do you want anybody from the Brown side in this game? I think it could be closer, so the run game could be a little bit more balanced this week.
Yeah, let's put it this way. If the Browns don't keep this game close and run the ball, they just aren't going to do it this year. So, like, if you have Crowell, and he doesn't do anything this week, just don't start him the rest of the season until he does
wouldn't
something.
either.
Just you can play him this week if you have to, especially with the buys and people being out, and you can play him as a flex guy. But I wouldn't have huge expectations, but I do think that they're hoping to get him more carries. I think they're hoping to get him around like between 15 and 18 rather than the 10 to 15 he's been getting. Jets' rush defense has been better the last couple of games, although they've been playing some not as great teams, and the Dolphins just didn't show up that time.
Yeah.
But the Jets' rush defense has gotten a little bit better. I mean, they've won their last 2 games, so good for them. But, I'm fine with playing Crowell this week. The rest of the Browns, I don't know, they're fine.
They're fine at best. Like at best, they're fine.
I'm not excited about any of these. Like Corey Coleman's down, and I'm not excited about anybody else on that team.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think Corey Coleman being down just hamstrings this team so much, and then Kenny Britt just literally like not even trying. Like you can clearly tell like he doesn't care. He just doesn't care at all. Like he puts forth
taking the money and retiring.
Yeah, basically.
Not telling him about it.
That's exactly what he looks like he's doing, because he just puts forth no effort. And like, for all I don't think that Kaiser is good or anything like that. Like I'm not trying to praise Kaiser or anything like that or defend him. He needs to get better. He needs to find a way to throw the ball downfield better. But Britt has directly, like his laziness has directly resulted in 2 interceptions for Kaiser. And like, that's not the way that you help out your young QB, right? Like that's not the things that you should do as a veteran or just as a good teammate. That's not the kind of things that you should do. And that really puts a damper on his ability to try and right the ship and get them down with sustained drives. And Britt has just been a real dark spot. So having Coleman out has really pushed everybody up on the depth chart a bit. I mean, Rashard Higgins is still like he's gonna get targets. I think he'll be an okay option moving down the stretch, and I think Deshaun Kaiser will get better. I think like people dropped Rashard Higgins probably a bit too quickly. He operates out of the slot anytime that Duke Johnson doesn't, and they're starting to run shallower routes. The team will get better, but you're right. I still think that the Browns are still a full year away, like a full season away, and I think Crowell, basically the only value that he has at this point moving forward is he won't get you a 0 if you need somebody to fill in your spot, right? He just has a floor of not 0 because he's going to get so many touches and he'll fall forward for 40 yards or whatever. But other than that, I mean, I don't want to play anybody from this team really at all. I am interested to see how they perform against the Jets though, in general.
Yeah, it won't be a fun game to watch, but it'll be an interesting game to watch on the sped up tape.
Yeah, exactly. On the condensed tape, and I'll probably watch some of the all 22 to just see how their line plays and stuff like that before next week, hopefully. But I mean, it's not going to be an interesting one to watch for all the fans.
I will say I'm a little bit higher on the Jets receivers than you are in DFS.
Yeah, I think they have some value.
They're not very good, and both Curse and Robbie Anderson have value in the sense that they'll be underpriced compared to people who will get similar numbers of targets, just because like they will get targets. And Robbie Anderson, actually, he's not very good, but he's okay at getting deep, and the Browns aren't very good at covering anything. So
Yeah. So that's the only caveat I'll bring up to this. I'm not necessarily low on them specifically. We haven't really, for good reason, you and I haven't really brought up the Jets receivers as a major topic of discussion, specifically. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, even talking between you and I off stream, we just haven't really gotten around to talking about them a whole bunch. So I'm not terribly low on them. Robbie Anderson, he is reliant on the deep ball though, right? And so it's the Browns don't cover this well, and I would play him in tournament play, but I wouldn't roll him out in cash games just from the sheer fact that he is very reliant on the deep ball. Jermaine Kearse is a better receiver, and he's going to see the majority of the targets better than anyone else, I think. So I would be more willing to roll him out as a first option. And you're right, they are underpriced, so they have value. I'm just not like chomping at the bit to get pieces of them. That's all.
If you're chomping at the bit to get anybody in these first 2 games, you're doing it wrong. Serious Homer syndrome. All right, so Jags Steelers. This one's a little bit of a downer for me personally because, as everybody knows, Steelers are playing at home, so like I love firing up all of them. But the Jags defense is actually really good, and that's like still firing up Big Ben because he's going to throw 5 touchdowns in one of these home games, and I'm going to be part of that game. But I think this is pretty as unlikely as any game to be the one that he goes off.
I don't know about as unlikely as any. They match up from the standpoint of where the Jaguars' major strengths are. They're also pretty strong. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is not just going to completely shut down Antonio Brown. It doesn't really happen. Like he'll slow him down a bit. I'm sure they'll do things like bracket coverage, try and give them some ability to hold them up. But the Jaguars can still be run on, and Le'Veon Bell will run on them definitely. And because they're so good at running the ball, and Ben isn't terrible at home, they'll find a way to effectively use play action as well, and AJ Boye will match up with Martavis Bryant. I give that matchup a bit. I give it to AJ Boye a bit, but Martavis Bryant is still a really big dude and like can win any ball. Like Ben will just throw him a jump ball and he can go up and get it. And you're right. I just suspect that we'll own a bit of home Ben this week, and I just trust him at home. Like it's one of the most known things in fantasy. He's bad on the road. He's good at home, even with a good defense. And you know, we're not a huge fan of traveling defenses either. Like this could be one of those games where you see the Jags, even though they are good, they won't put up fantastic numbers. So I still trust Road Ben in this. I like Le'Veon a lot in this matchup. He is expensive, but yeah, I still love him. Like I think this will be a solid matchup, and I do think that Fournette will still just get so much usage that he's worth using pretty much any week that you want to use him.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the Steelers defense is good. So
the Steelers defense is good.
Other than Fournette, I don't really want to play any of the Jaguars. Like if you need to play Marquise Lee or something because he's gonna get a lot of targets, that's fine. But the Steelers defense is pretty legit this year.
Yeah, they are good. So Artie Burns especially is playing just really good football. Like they're just playing well.
On the Steelers side, I said it before and I'll say it again. When they play at home, I will have one team every week that they play at home where I pick all the Steelers offensive players. Yeah. Because when Ben goes off, I just want to win that week. Like it's a guaranteed win. I'm just gonna take it.
Yep.
So, you know, it's fine. I don't think this is terribly likely to be the one, but he's done it before against like better defenses than this at home.
Yep.
So
without a doubt,
I'm just not afraid of home Ben ever.
Yeah, go back and like look at the record book. Like home Ben has done it against like some legendary Ravens teams. Like he's just done it. He just does it all the time. And go back and look at the record book. He's awful on the road. We harp on it every week, but it's just the truth. We're gonna have home Ben this week, so that's that. All right, next game is Chargers Giants. I think this is another interesting one. The Giants have not impressed me as much with their defense this year as I thought that they were going to be before the year. We talked about them a lot. I thought that they were going to be pretty solid. I think this is another one of those where some of it comes from their offense is hamstringing them a bit. Their offense got on board a bit last weekend, but they played against the Bucs and They suck. Like the Bucs are just they can't defend anyone. Like people all of a sudden think they're good at running. They're not. Their offensive line still isn't good. Eli throws a terrible ball. Like he just if you watch that game at all, it's amazing that they move the ball in any way whatsoever. And it really is. It's remarkable. Like Eli has played just terrible. He's not on the same page with a lot of different people. The only reason that they've been able to move the ball effectively is because Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, especially operating shallow routes, and Sterling Shepard operating out of the slot, have just played tremendous. They've run really great routes, and they've offered an option for Eli to basically have this blanket, and to where he can also take balls deep when he's ready to. they've bailed them out a lot, and that's really the only reason that they've been able to move the ball. So I'm still not inspired by this defense at all whatsoever. Also, Casey Hayward has played very, very well over the past several weeks, even with Jason Verrett being out. So like, I'm just not super enthused by the Giants offense in any way whatsoever on this one. I do love Keenan Allen in this game, though. I think Keenan Allen will do exceptional in this game. The Giants gave up so many chunk plays to the Buccaneers the last week. I just think that Keenan Allen is going to shred them up running fantastic routes this week.
Yeah. On the Giants side, the other thing that's troubling is Odell Beckham's hurt again, and he's probably going to play, and his ankle's probably not going to be right. I mean, he tweaked it again last week, and as we've seen, when he's not 100%, their offense is
really bad.
It goes from being like a slightly above average. When he's 100%, they're like slightly above average on offense, or right around average. Like, it doesn't look good, but they get the points.
Yep.
When he's not 100%, they are awful.
Like dead last, awful.
Yeah, and I mean, with him hurting it again, I just don't want to be a part of it. Like, it's possible that he'll play great. Like, he always has that capability, and if he does, their offense will be okay. But I don't want to bet on him on a week when I don't want to bet on him carrying their offense, which is what he has to do at this point on a week when he's not 100%. I'd rather wait another week and see if he doesn't tweak it again. On the Chargers side, like, Melvin's also carrying a little bit of a knee injury, and the Giants' rush defense isn't terrible. I'm not crazy about him. I mean, he's always a good play in season long and even in DFS just because he gets so much volume.
Yep.
And he gets so many goal line carries. But he's Melvin Gordoning again, guys. Like, he has 3 yards to carry.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Like, I remember at one point during last season, somebody was bringing up to me the value of whether, like, Melvin Gordon was now remember, this was sort of early and stuff, and people didn't know quite how good he was, but somebody was comparing, like, Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott, and I went through this gigantic explanation of trying to show people, like, all of Melvin Gordon's production came from the fact that he just had so many touches and he was getting so many goal line carries that there was no way that he could not produce, right? Like, you could put me on the field and I would have produced almost as much as Melvin Gordon would have. He had like one carry that went for greater than 20 yards last year, I think. Either 1 or 2. It was no more than 2. And the average yardage that his touchdowns came out to a cumulative of like 2.4 yards, and he had like 13 touchdowns. Like, that's not, he's not going to be exceptional in any way. He's going to have between 3 and 4 yards of carry. Some weeks it'll be lower than that, but his volume dictates that you should use him every single week. It's not somebody that you're just going to sit unless he's like really, really hurt. And it doesn't matter whether it's a standard league, PPR league, it doesn't matter. He gets so much volume, but he's not going to just blow up and like have 170. Like, he's not going to Kareem Hunt this, right? Like, Kareem Hunt's a talented player. Ezekiel Elliott is a talented player. Like, Tevin and Devontae have those weeks where they just blow up for massive yardage amounts and stuff like that. Like, Melvin Gordon is not going to be that guy. He's going to have 18 carries every week, and he's going to have like 70 plus yards every week-ish, and he's going to have a touchdown on the good weeks, and he's not going to on the other weeks, and like, he'll get a couple of catches. That's just how their offense goes forward, So, I like Rivers in this matchup too, though. I think that I think they're going to have to throw the ball because Melvin's ailing a bit. I don't think he's ailing enough to play like Brandon Oliver or anything like that. Like, don't get any of those ideas or anything of that nature. But, I do think that Rivers is an okay matchup. And like, if you need a streaming option this week at quarterback in your season long, because there's a lot of good quarterbacks that are on bye this week. If you need Rivers as a streaming option, like, I think that his projections are way too low. I think he'll be 20 plus points this week.
Phil's always a good streaming option. So he's like right on that edge of like, should be owned or shouldn't be owned, like right on the border of whether he should be owned or not. But like, that means he's almost always the most talented quarterback on the
That's exactly right.
So just don't play him against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Next game, Bills-Bengals. Any game that the Bills are involved in, I don't want anybody except for LaShawn McCoy.
Yep.
Their defense is pretty good and their offense is really bad.
Yeah, they're. I don't think that there's really a better way to say it. Like their defense is really. I'm gonna say that they're overperforming. I did not think that they should be. I don't think that they should be this good. Like for some reason they've lost players. Players have moved on. They lost two major players in Stephon Gilmore and Zach Brown this year, and I'm like. I'm not going to call those players overrated. They've gone to their respective their new defenses, and they've really performed well, and they've upgraded those units. Now, I understand the Patriots are worse. It's not because of Stephon Gilmore. He's done his job. He's played well. Zach Brown as well. He's gone to the Redskins. They are a better unit this year, strictly because, especially because of him. And the Bills just wind up keep trucking on. And I mean, I think that they still have yet to give up a passing touchdown this entire year. And they're one of the best against the run as well. I think they're like bottom 5 as far as the unit is concerned with rush yards, or top 5 rather. In rushing units as well. Like they play solid defense, and I understand they haven't played tremendous talent this year, but still they come up, they show up every single week and they do their job. And Shady was a little disappointing last week. They are still going to run the ball. They should be ahead in games because they play solid defense, and Shady's going to keep getting a lot of touches. I think last weekend was a bit of an anomaly. I still like him in this game, especially because I want no part of anyone in the passing offense, because the Bengals have also played pretty solid against the pass as well. So LaShawn McCoy is probably the only person I want. I mean, I'll play AJ Green, obviously, if he's in my season-long league. But, like, people are going to go crazy over Tyler Kroft this week because they think that he's a really good tight end option. Even if he was, and he is going to be involved in the offense until Tyler Eifert gets back, this is a week to sit him. I think they've given up, like, 4 points per week to tight ends. I just don't want any part of him this week.
I mean, tight ends who aren't good, like Tyler Kroft or all of them except for the top 3 or 4, they get all their value from touchdowns. Yeah. And as you just said, the Bills just haven't given up literally any passing touchdowns this year. So the odds of Tyler Kroft, who's a relatively mediocre tight end, being the guy to do that is not very high. Like AJ Green very well could be the guy to do it.
Right. Like that's the guy who could break that streak, right? Like AJ Green is one of the guys that can just take over a game and get into the end zone. Tyler Kroft is not the guy that gets my jimmies up, all up in a bundle. So
yeah, the other thing I want to say about this game is like ESPN has Joe Mixon rated really high, and I think he's gonna be the guy at this point for the Bengals.
Yeah,
it seems, or they're still gonna do this like annoying rotation thing where like Gio got the touchdown last week.
Yeah, but I mean that was a 60-yard play. Like Gio just made that happen, and it was also sort of blown by the defense. So like, they will get plays and stuff like that, but Joe Mixon will genuinely for the most part be the guy.
It seems like they're turning to him. That being said, like this is not the week that he's gonna go nuts. No. His breakout week's gonna have to be pushed back another week.
Yep.
It's like Joe Mixon's really good. The Bengals are going to use him, it seems, now that they've got an offensive coordinator who wants to win games. But the Bills are, I mean, it's just not the week he's going to go nuts. So, like, if you have to play him as a flex, like, that's fine. But I wouldn't be excited about him this week, next week.
Yeah, I don't know that I would sit him in season long just because he gets so many touches, and I think that volume is important, especially when mixed with talented players. And the Bengals aren't completely incapable of throwing the ball either. So, like, Mixon does have some value this week. So I wouldn't sit him in season long, but you're right. This shouldn't be a week that he just goes absolutely bananas. So the next game on the slate is Panthers-Lions. I know that you feel differently about this, but I'm going to come right out and say it. The Lions defense, at least for fantasy purposes, is extremely productive. Cam Newton is not all of a sudden good. Like he's not. The Patriots are just really, really, really bad. The Lions is my defense this week. Like I'm rolling them out everywhere that I possibly can. I picked them up in all kinds of leagues as my streaming defense for this week. They're not super expensive in DFS. I believe they're $3,500 or $3,200 maybe. And there's not a bunch of great cheap options either, right? So they're one that I'm looking to this week. I mean, they have double-digit points every single week, and they have touchdowns in a couple of their games. So I'm looking for the defense that can take it to the house, right? And I want those big numbers in the touchdowns. So Cam Newton is one of the better options for good turnover opportunity in this season. So that's why I want to be a part of the Lions more than anything else. Other than that, I love Golden Tate in this game. I just don't think that they have an option to cover him. I think he has a really great slot matchup, and he's been operating out of the slot about 60% of the time. So I think it's a pretty good option for him. Also, I think you were bringing up Theo Riddick in earlier before we started streaming. What do you think about Riddick?
He's like under $4,000, or maybe right at $4,000 in DraftKings at least. So, the Panthers, I don't understand why this is the case, because they have really, really good linebackers, but they've actually just not been very good defending running backs out of the backfield, catching the ball. And like, it's not really my job to like fix that for them. So play Theo Riddick.
No, it's our job to capitalize and make money off of their mistakes.
So, I mean, all he needs to do is get like 5 catches for 30 yards, which is very much within the realm of possibilities for him to return value. And it's probably likely he does better than that. So I'm pretty. It's in a week when there aren't a lot of when there are a lot of good players on buy and there aren't a lot of cheap options. He's one.
Yeah, he's $4,100 on DraftKings. I think that he's a good option as well. I do think that a stat line very a la 5 for 30, 4 for 40 plus, somewhere right around there. He's not insanely talented, but I mean, if they're close, if they're 15-ish yards away, he could always take it to the house. It's always possible. And they throw around the red zone. We've brought it up plenty of times in the past. It hasn't changed. Trust the Cooter. Like, they throw around the red zone. And so while they're near the red zone, Riddick is in the game more than Amir Abdullah is. They don't really care about running it that much. Amir Abdullah has gotten a lot of carries. He did all right last week. He had 94 yards. But Theo Riddick is in the game more times than not when they're in the red zone. So I would like those opportunities to potentially get in the red zone this week. I think it's very possible that because the Carolina secondary struggles so much that this could be more of a wide receiver week as far as their touchdowns are concerned. But because Riddick is on the field, I at least like his chances. And for $4,100, I'm willing to take that. Right. I'm willing to take that option as a guy where, I was able to spend up in some of these other areas because this guy is $4,100. I'll slot him in as my last flex play to get some high upside out of him.
Yep. On the Carolina side, as usual, I'm not really crazy about anyone. This is a team that really just like lives and dies by Cam Newton and whoever he decides to give touchdowns to. Like, that's who gets them. So, I'm not crazy about any of them. Like, play McCaffrey. But he's not. Like, this isn't a week that he's going to go. Well, I don't know. Detroit's linebackers aren't that great, so McCaffrey could be a good option. But the rest of them, not really feeling good about them.
They're not great, but they've been playing above their pay grade, to be honest. And Quandre Diggs should match up on Marvin Jones this week. He's been playing very well. I do think this is another one of those weeks where Kenny Golladay could have a big week. We were talking about the roller coaster that he could subscribe to. This could be another 2-touchdown week. I'm warning everyone. I would only play him in tournament though. I'm sorry. We were talking about the Panther side. Sorry about that.
Also, don't play Kenny Golladay because he's probably not going to play anyway.
Yeah, sorry. McCaffrey is the only person I would even remotely touch in this game. Like, the Lions defense is good. Other than that, I wouldn't really touch anyone else in this game.
Yeah. I'm actually. I'll confess this. I'm playing Cam as a streaming quarterback in a league where I have Mariota and he's hurt. And like, of course, there's a bunch of other good quarterbacks out, so everybody else also has to stream, and I just got stuck with Cam.
Yeah, it happens. I'm not saying that he's
it's fine. Like, he the thing that I'm excited about with him is he ran the ball last week, and when he's running the ball, he's better at throwing, and he obviously gets the points for running, which should give him a higher floor. So I hope that what happened last week. I don't think that Cam is necessarily back to being what he was like before he hurt his shoulder and everything. But I hope that what happened last week encourages the coaching staff to let him loose a little bit, because he can't play the way that they were trying to make him play.
He just doesn't. If Cam Newton does not run, I don't want any part of him. If he does run, then it's fine. He's a good option in fantasy. But I like you kind of hinted at, I don't think he's quite back there yet. That's why I still don't trust him this week.
Yeah, No, I don't trust him either. I play him because I have to stream, and I'm hoping that they let him run like they did last week.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they don't because I want to make money off of the lines.
Titans Dolphins. A game which looked so promising just a few weeks ago as far as offensive firepower from a fantasy point of view, all of a sudden looks not very much more exciting than the Niners-Colts game. I mean, the Titans have been just decimated by injuries on the offensive side of the ball, and the Dolphins have forgotten to show up 2 weeks in a row when they're coming off a London game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, count me out, right? I like DeMarco Murray, I guess, but count me out.
Yeah, I mean, the only person that I really want to have any shares of in this game is Devontae Parker, just because the Tennessee Titans secondary is so trash. Like, give me the top most talented not slot receiver going up against the Titans every single week. Like, just sign me up. It was pretty obvious to me last week. I mean, things in the fantasy world that are obvious still go poorly, but like DeAndre Hopkins was just an obvious one last week to me. Parker should still be, because like I don't trust Jay Cutler, right? I still don't like all of a sudden trust Jay Cutler. This isn't an I love Jay Cutler kind of thing, but he's gonna force feed it to Parker, and Parker is at least a talented receiver. And while he's healthy, I'm gonna capitalize on crappy secondaries, and the Titans have one of those crappy secondaries. They're okay against people in the slot, so I much prefer the people that they go up against on the outside, but I mean, still, they're not really good at covering any of them, but so you can sign me up for Parker this week. Parker's the only person I want in this entire game. Yeah, he's the only one I want.
Yeah, I mean, so this could be a game where Jay Cutler actually has a good game.
It could be.
Because the Titan secondary is bad, and Mariota, like, he may or may not play. If he does play, he's not going to be able to run it, so they're going to be hamstrung on offense, so the offense might be getting good field position and all of this stuff. If Jay Cutler's ever going to have a good game, this might be it.
This should be it,
and
yes.
If they weren't coming off of the London game, I would feel much better about the Dolphins offense. But, like, I don't think anyone's ever done this before, right? Where they come back from London and play. They're like the first team to ever turn down the bye week after the London game.
Yeah, that's correct. They've turned down the bye week. No. This did happen last year, and I kept close tabs on this scenario last season specifically. It didn't go as poorly as I thought it would potentially go, but I don't remember which team it was, but they were not. They certainly weren't dealing with a first-year quarterback and stuff like that. I mean, they had less problems than Miami has right now. That's for certain. But the thing for me for the whole Cutler scenario is like they've done all this damage to themselves, right? Every single drive that they start, they wind up with penalties, negative plays, and stuff like that. So that's why I don't trust Cutler more than anything else. It's that they shoot themselves in the foot. It seems like every single proper opportunity they get, they shoot themselves in the foot. So I don't trust the Titans defense in any way whatsoever, really. I mean, I think that they should get run over, but I don't trust Cutler in this game, even with all the things that trend towards saying that we should.
Yeah, Kenny Stills is also like if you want to, like, a guy who might catch a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, he could catch the stat line for Kenny Stills very well could read 298 and 1. Like that could very well be the stat line in this one.
It's not going to be a lot of targets, so don't get like crazy about him. But again, in like tournament play or something, against bad secondaries, if you're going to pick the guys who are going deep.
100%.
Yeah, that's it really.
Yep.
In that game.
Next game is Cardinals-Eagles. The Cardinals is another one that kind of like the Giants, where just preseason I thought that their defense would be as a unit better than they actually have performed, and it hasn't even been one type of specific player that's really beat them up. They've just been lackluster all over the place. Tyrann Mathieu has been less than stellar this year, but he's a perfect example of it's a unit thing, right? Like it's usually he was one of those where he was leading the charge and everyone wanted to be, they just thought that he was the best leader for the defense and everything. And it's like, well, he hasn't played that great this year. So do they all just fall apart all of a sudden because of that? It's like, there's obviously more going on. Patrick Peterson has still played well. So I still usually don't want the top option playing against him specifically in any week. But I mean, that's Alshon Jeffrey this week, and the Eagles just spread the ball around better than that, right? So I don't really care that much that Patrick Peterson is in this game. Like, I think Alshon will still get maybe 2 or 3 catches. I don't think they'll be overly productive, but Ertz is still going to light it up. Most likely, even though he draws Tyrann Mathieu in coverage, I think that he'll still light it up most likely. You'll still have a couple of long balls to Torrey Smith, which they still keep throwing, even though he misses every single time. And he really is, for some reason, he just cannot close his hands around the football. He just can't do it. And then Nelson Aguilar still sucks, but he's still going to get opportunities. And the backfield is at least competent to the point where it doesn't completely stop them from operating on offense, right? LeGarrette Blount is not, I mean, it's true. Like, that's just how it is. Wendell Smallwood had over 100 yards from scrimmage, and LeGarrette Blount had 136, I think it was. So that they at least, I mean, they don't completely stop the offense from operating, and they don't completely tip their hand as to what kind of play they're running. That's something that I really appreciate about the Eagles right now. So they're going to keep operating on offense, I think, pretty much the same way. I would like to get in on their defense this week, though, because I don't think that Arizona just has much to offer. Like, Andre Ellington is a glorified receiver. Kerwin Williams runs the ball pretty terribly. Like, Chris Johnson just has not a lot of upside for him. Larry is obviously the option that they throw to, and some myriad of J.J. Nelson, Jerron Brown, and John Brown will get you something, but their offensive line is just still playing like garbage.
Yeah, the Eagles secondary sucks, but the Cardinals offensive line also sucks. So it'll be interesting.
Front seven is solid.
Front seven is good. So Carson is like not someone I'm excited about. Yeah. He's going to have some turnovers. It's not going to be good. But someone on the Cardinals receiving core is going to go off. Like, it's going to be one of them. It's probably not going to be John Brown because he's like not ever healthy and stuff.
Right.
J.J. Nelson or Jerron Brown, more than likely to me, one of those two is going to go nuts. Like 120 yards and a touchdown or something. Yeah,
my inclination, my inclination for thinking, I'll give you just my thoughts on that at least. My inclination for it being J.J. Nelson over either of the J. Browns is because both of the J. Browns take more away from each other than they take away from anyone else, right? So J.J. Nelson, just by process of elimination of his position being not really played by any of the other receivers, leads me to believe that it's possible that he has the best chance. With that being said, he's the least upside guy compared to either of the J. Browns, right?
He doesn't play as many snaps.
Yeah, he doesn't play as many snaps, and he also doesn't run the long go routes like the Eagles can be burned for. So one of the J. Browns could do it just as easily because the quality of targets that they get as far as high upside are just better. So it's just a tricky one. That's why their receiving core isn't something that I want to be a part of each week.
Yeah. I mean, one of them's gonna go nuts, but I don't know how to pick which one it is. So if you do, then do it, or if you feel like you're lucky, then pick one.
Yep, for sure.
But the other ones aren't gonna do anything because that's what happens.
Yep.
So it's it's a high risk, high reward kind of situation.
For sure.
Don't play any Cardinals running backs ever unless David Johnson comes back.
Yep.
And I agree with everything you said about the Eagles offense.
Good. Next game is Ravens-Raiders. This, I do, just a quick disclaimer before you take this one over, because I'm going to let you have this one. I don't think that the Ravens is a bad play by any means, right? I very explicitly trust the Ravens defense, right? Their offense is just so bad that their defense has to start at their own 30 for most of their drives, right? So when they're playing against competent offenses, I really, really struggle to see them as a viable option. Now, I don't think that E.J. Manuel is a viable option for the offensive side of the ball, right? So I'm not scared of this Raiders offensive attack in any way particularly, but it's just it's completely how much the offense of the Ravens hamstrings their defense. So that's basically all I have to say about that. I'm not playing anybody on the Raiders this week just because I don't think that they can competently get the ball to them. So I do understand that the Ravens is a good option. I'm just I'm hesitant is all.
Play the Ravens defense. Play the Ravens defense everywhere you can. Like, we've seen what they do when they play incompetent quarterbacks.
Yeah.
In particular, incompetent quarterbacks from Ohio. They were the best defense in fantasy football the first 2 weeks of the season because they were playing teams from Ohio. And while they aren't playing a team from Ohio this week, they are playing a quarterback who is just as bad as they come in football. And he's turnover prone, and doesn't have high upside because he's inaccurate, and he's never had a good game in his life, basically. And I don't expect it to start now against the Ravens secondary, which is really good. And the Raiders, while they have a really good run game, they haven't used it, and I don't expect the Ravens to just let them run on them because why would they do that when they have EJ Manuel at quarterback? So I just don't see how this can go bad for the Ravens. Play them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tack on this. I'll tack on this as an addendum to what you said too. A lot of people feel like EJ Manuel has a good floor because he's a running quarterback. He really doesn't run. He's not actually a running quarterback. He doesn't, just go check his stats. He really does not run all that much. So your floor isn't even really good as far as that's concerned either. So once again, the only thing that hamstrings the Ravens defense is their offense. So if you think that they will be at least some level of competent this week, and I do think that EJ Manuel is good for a couple of turnovers this week, and they're not using their run game effectively, I do think that they're a good play. Like I said, I'm just hesitant, but I like how confident you are that the Ravens are going to be good this week, so that we'll definitely have to play them.
I'm playing the Ravens defense.
I love it. All right, next game is Seahawks-Rams. This is going to be an interesting one. I do think this will be an interesting one. I'm for two things specifically in this game. I want to see, because the Seahawks are so bad at running the ball, specifically because their offensive line is really just crap. I'm interested to see if the Rams can get away with a decent rushing defensive game this year. This should be the game, right? They have no running backs basically on the roster. They have a bad offensive line, and they should be able to get after Russell Wilson. So other than the times that Russell Wilson scrambles away just for his life, I think that the rushing total should be pretty good on the Rams side of the ball this year, and or for this game specifically. And then I also want to see how this high-powered Rams offense handles a still good Seahawks defense. They've been playing not up to expectations, but they're still a good defense. I want to see how they use the tight end in this matchup specifically, and then I also want to see if there is any one of the Rams receivers that can find a way to do something special in this game. I still think that Gurley will be productive. I think that his floor is just immense because he gets so much work. I think that I trust him. I think he'll still be good. Seahawks run defense has not been as advertised yet. But I want to see if there's any one of the Rams receivers that can do something here. Robert Woods is sort of the kind of guy that can beat the Seahawks. But Earl Thomas is still a really, really great deep safety, and that's where Robert Woods has historically made his hay. So I want to see how this is a good matchup. I just want to see how this matchup plays out, and it's a divisional game as well. So they're usually just slugfests. I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Not only that, the Seahawks got decimated on their defensive line this past week. Cliff Averill got hurt, and they had two other guys go down. They're not appearing on the injury report, so I'm guessing that they're planning on playing this week. But they had a bunch of guys. They had, I think, 3 guys go down their defensive line last week. So Gurley's he's good to go. He's not been good on the defensive line to begin with. Plus they've lost a bunch of guys. Gurley, fire him up. I think Cooper Kupp is the Rams receiver who can do some damage against the Seahawks. He's the Julian Edelman type slot guy that gives them problems. I don't think he's going to go totally bananas, but I think that he's the one who's got the best chance. Like, the Seahawks just fit too well with stopping Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I think Sammy Watkins is a pure shutdown this week. Like, I would really avoid him at all costs. They're built to stop that exact type of player.
This will be interesting. The Seahawks traditionally struggle really badly at the Rams under Pete Carroll, and like nobody knows why. Like Aaron Donald just like stops them from scoring any points, I guess. But like the Seahawks just can't beat the Rams away from home. I don't like. There's no real reason for it. The Rams have been bad a lot of those years, and the Seahawks have really struggled. But this Rams defense isn't the same as the old Rams defense. They're not as good. They've struggled. So don't play the Seahawks running game. All those running backs are bad, and their offensive line sucks. But Russell Wilson looks like he's kind of got it together at this point. Usually it takes him a little bit longer, but he's been playing really great lately.
Yeah, he's ahead of schedule, if you will. he's a bit ahead of schedule.
That means I expect him to have another stinker at some point, and it could be this one.
Right.
But the Rams defense doesn't scare me. The only thing that does is like tradition or history or something, and I don't know if there's a real reason to be scared of that.
Yeah, the two things that scare me particularly is I do trust Wade Phillips. I think that Wade Phillips is a good defensive coordinator, and as the season goes on, I think that they will continue to get better. And like you said, I don't know if it's Aaron Donald specifically, but this defensive line could really keep a hold of Russell Wilson in this one. Like they are good. They have a lot of talent on it, and their offensive line is just so rough. And this isn't the time of the year that they get it together yet, So I think that this could still be a rough game for the Seahawks offense as well. I will probably watch this with great intent. Like I will be very interested to see how this game goes. And this will be one of, I'm not interested to get a hold of a ton of their players. I do think that Cooper Kupp could be a good option this week. I think it could wind up being him. But other than Gurley, I don't really want a ton of these players, but I will be watching this game, definitely.
Next one is the one where you just play everybody, Packers, Cowboys.
This is the game, dude.
Play everybody. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. So this it's actually a good way that you bring that up, Joe. So let's talk about the people that you may consider sitting in this game, right? Like let's try and parse, because it's such a good game and we want so many of these players. Let's try and parse who are the people that we think could be left out, right? Like there's not enough football to go around for all of these players in this entire matchup. So who's the person that you think otherwise should be good, but gets left out of this game specifically?
Ty Montgomery. He's got broken ribs. If he plays, he's not going to be getting the goal line carry. He's not going to be like, here, you got broken ribs, run into a pile of a bunch of people who are trying to beat you up. Like, if he plays, they're going to be nicer to him than that. So, he might play, might not. It's not clear. He said he hopes to play, but like, I'm not playing him in this game. I don't think that. I just don't see it. I don't see them giving him the short yardage and goal line carries that that provide a lot of value. And not that he's a great goal line back to begin with, but I just see his touches being way down this week compared to what they've been, which is spectacular. 20 touches a game. I don't see him getting that with broken ribs. So he's one that I'm not excited about. On the Cowboys side, I mean, play the people that you play, which is Zeke and Dez and the tight end Jason Witten. The other people aren't good. Oh yeah, play Dak.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a couple of things here. I think that all the points that you brought up about Ty Montgomery are all prudent, and then to add to that, Jamal Williams also stated that he's good to go for this game, right? So I don't see a huge reason for them to rush him back when this is already considered a pretty short injury where it's just a pain tolerance thing. And I don't think that they will try and, like you said, be any meaner to him than they already need to be. I think they should win this game because they are so able to move the ball on this Dallas secondary, who they got a little bit healthier this week, but I just think that they're too good. Randall Cobb has an excellent matchup this week. Jordy Nelson gets targeted so much in the red zone. I think that those guys are basically just complete locks to do extremely well this week. Devontae Adams is dealing with a bit of an injury as well. And so he stated that he's good to go, but I think he could be maybe potentially left out of this one, so to speak. And then on the other side of the ball, I'm actually fading Dez this week. I think that Dez is the most likely to not produce up to what he should, and Cole Beasley has an amazing matchup this week. So he'd be the one that I would consider playing that I otherwise would not. And then Dak and Zeke are just fire him up. I mean, in every single way possible. Dak has actually shown that it's still, he's almost like the old Alex Smith, but with even more running capability, right? He's super safe with the ball. He doesn't force anything, and he gives his team a good opportunity to win, even with a poor playing defense. He gives his team an opportunity to win every single week. So he's not going to sling it all over, but it should be a higher scoring game. I want to fire pretty much everyone up, but I do think that the people that get left out are Ty, Devontae, and Dez, at least underperforming compared to their expectations otherwise.
Yep, that's the game of the week. Play everybody.
Yeah.
Except for Ty. Chiefs-Texans. Deshaun Watson went totally bananas last week against... So let's be clear, first of all, the Patriots defense is really bad. They're they're in dead last in like every category. And like the next worst team is like closer to being like 20th than they are to being the Patriots. Like they are so bad in like any advanced metric. Just embarrassingly bad.
Yes. I will say this though, the Titans are maybe closer to being like 25th than 20th, right? It's like the Patriots are 32nd, the Titans are 25th, and then the next best person is like 20th. So Deshaun Watson has literally played the worst two passing defenses like known to man in the last 2 weeks. Now, this should go with a caveat, like young quarterbacks who are used to winning usually gain confidence by winning when they get in the NFL. Once they get in the NFL and they find a way to win, they start to gain their confidence. Deshaun Watson has played better regardless of the defenses that he's played. He has played better than he was in the first couple of weeks of the season. And the Chiefs have a better defense. They also give up a lot of yards to receivers. So I would more be looking to play the receivers in this game than actually Deshaun Watson. I think that Deshaun Watson will be reined into reality in this game.
I'm going to turn the ball over more this game. Chiefs are pretty ball hawking as far as defenses go. And the Texans' offensive line isn't very good, and the Chiefs' defensive line is pretty good at getting pressure. So I'm not crazy about Deshaun Watson. Like he runs the ball really well and a lot because he's not very good in the pocket yet. And so he has like a nice floor. And so if you need to stream somebody and like it's a week where a lot of people need to stream somebody, he's not the worst option. But
definitely not the worst option.
He's not going to do the things that he did the last 2 weeks.
No.
Sorry. On the Chiefs side, the Texans have been kind of interesting. They've been getting better on defense as the season's gone on, but they've not been nearly as good as anybody expected them to be. I mean, I'm playing all of the explosive Chiefs players: Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Like those guys are unsittable. They're incredible. They don't have bad matchups here.
Yeah. Out of everyone, Tyreek Hill has an immense matchup. Like, this is one of his best matchups of the entire year. He's going to see Jonathan Banks. Now, people don't really cover Tyreek Hill like a true receiver because he's not a true receiver, right? He doesn't do the things that regular receivers do. He doesn't just line up and beat you on the outside. He does a lot of different things in this Chiefs offense, so he's not going to see shadow coverage from one person. However, when he lines up in his usual receiver spot, he's going to see Jonathan Banks, and he will absolutely cream this dude. Like, he's going to kill him, okay? So that's probably the best matchup-wise, but the other two are just, like, they're so good at their respective position that there's no way that I don't want a piece of them anywhere that I possibly can. Like this Chiefs, and Alex Smith is fine this week too. Like he's played very well. His air yards, his adjusted yards per attempt are all really great this year. I mean, Alex Smith has just been playing very, very well. Andy Reid is just an offensive genius, dude. Like he's just really, really a great coach. He's a great coach. So
when Andy Reid has a good running back, like that offense opens up so much,
Yeah.
and that's what you're seeing happen here. I mean, like last year, and really, Jamal hasn't been himself for a few years now.
right.
But like when Jamal was there, the offense was open. Like Alex Smith was playing off and just giving it to Jamal. But now like Kelsey's matured, he's really good. Tyreek Hill's really good. They have the three weapons that you can build your offense around, and,
Yep.
and you're seeing what happens when you give Andy Reid three weapons.
Yeah, and I'll add this as well. I like Tyreek Hill. I'm not like super high on him for fantasy just because it's going to be a bit roller coastery, just because he's so talented, and some weeks it's going to blow up and some weeks he'll be contained because he's not a regular receiver. But this is also like Tyreek Hill is just the cherry on top for this offense, right? Like he's the kind of player that Andy Reid can line up as a receiver, but he can also do all the other things that he wants in these gadget plays that Andy Reid wants to do. So it's just like those three players specifically for Andy Reid just open, like you said, open up so much, and it allows Alex Smith a lot of freedom to do basically everything that he wants and still be safe and not turn the ball over. So if he's another one, I assume that he's owned pretty much everywhere at this point, but if he's not, like he's a great streaming option, even just one good to own and start for going forward. Like he's a good option.
Yep, totally agree. I mean, I think that he'll calm down as the year goes on.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think he'll be better than Alex Smith has been in the past. Not
Yeah.
because I think he's become a great quarterback, but just the offense has opened up and they're going to score more points.
Yeah, this will be the career Alex Smith year. Yeah.
Last game of the week is Vikings-Bears. Trubisky's playing, so that means that Bears receivers might actually get a few catches this week. But like play the Vikings defense.
Yeah.
Like, I know that they don't have a running back and they don't have a quarterback on the Vikings side, but like Keenum has shown that in that offense, at least the way that they're running it, that he's not just going to totally implode.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had 3 games he's played now. He hasn't imploded in any of them really. The defense has still been good, and this is the best matchup they're going to see all season. It's like the only way it could be better is they're playing in Minnesota instead of in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But like rookie quarterbacks in their first game don't do well. Like I know Trubisky looked good in the preseason. I don't care about what happened in the preseason. I'd play the Vikings defense. They're going to shut down the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, Trubisky did look good, but and I almost think there's no way that he won't be better than Glennon just from a standpoint of if he gives their offense anything. Like Glennon just in the circumstances has been
instead of fumbling, he'll be better than Glennon.
That's what I'm saying. So just literally by process of not doing anything, he's better, right? So I want to say this with sort of a caveat, but he won't be great. I mean, there's just almost no way that he'll be great against a really good Vikings defense in general. They're very adaptive, and like you said, rookie quarterbacks are just not good in their first game typically. I still would shy away from playing any of the Chicago receivers or anything like that. And
no, not this week. I meant in general, like they might actually.
They might actually get some targets. But I still think that they're going to look to run the ball. I just think that that's the identity of this football team. And Trubisky, even when he was playing, that was still the identity of this team. Short bootlegs and stuff like that to get the ball out of his hands. I think that they'll play it smart, but you know. I think this is just a defensive game in and of itself. Like I think I would play either defense is perfectly fine to play really. And this just also goes to show that Sam Bradford is nothing special. Like Case Keenum, I mean, Keenum hasn't done anything that really implodes them. It's just that the offense is easy to operate.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens without Dalvin Cook now. But the offense just had playmakers, right? Like Rudolph's a fine tight end. Diggs has become a really excellent receiver. Thielen is like good enough in the slot, like to make people cover him.
Oh yeah, I mean Thielen's a great slot option.
And Dalvin Cook was like being really good. He was catching the ball at the backfield. He was running effectively. So again, when you have like 3 weapons on an offense, and these guys had 4 or 3 weapons, and then like tight end who was good enough.
3 weapons on a guy.
I mean, he's an above average tight end, basically, slightly above average. You can run a real offense, and that's what you were seeing the Vikings do. And Bradford or Keenum, they're both kind of just guys who can throw to open people.
Yep, no doubt. So Joe, tell me this. We've obviously we've targeted our game for the week. There's no doubt about it. It's got to be Green Bay Dallas. What's the game that you're avoiding more than anything else? What's the game that you're completely staying away from?
The Bills Bengals game.
Yeah.
Get me out of there.
Yeah,
it's two good defenses and two bad offenses.
Yeah. That would be mine as well. The only other game that I'll offer, just to try and be a little bit different, aside from the Ravens defense, I really don't want any part of the Ravens Raiders either, right? Like I don't want anybody offensive in that game. It's just they just offer nothing to me without Carr being in the game.
Yeah, I mean the only person that you might see be sneaky here is Jared Cook. I don't think he's good, but EJ Manuel threw in the ball 5 times in the one quarter that he played last week.
Yeah.
So is he going to keep doing that? I don't know. They're going to actually have a game plan for EJ Manuel this week, so who knows? But it seems that his default is throw to Jared Cook.
Right.
And he's not going to go nuts, but if you're in a PPR league and you need a tight end to get 4 catches for 40 yards, then that's a guy you could play.
Right. He could be a guy.
Yeah, that game sucks. Don't play anybody.
Yeah, those are the 2 games that we would really, really recommend staying away from. Honestly, every other game, there's at least a player or 2 that I could tell you I'm pretty interested in playing. But the closest thing that I have to those games, I would say, is Titans-Dolphins. I really only want one person in that game, really. All the other games, I would say, have some viable players in pretty much all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been we got a lot of backup quarterbacks playing this week.
Yep.
So it's a tough fantasy week. I think it's a little bit tough. You have the Raiders back up, the Bears are starting a rookie. Flacco is terrible. Cutler is terrible. The Titans are either playing their backup or Mariota's going to be limping around. Just not a fun time.
Yeah. I think.
So get all in on the Packers-Cowboys game.
Yep, get all in on the Packers-Cowboys game. If you had to pick a second favorite in this game, where are you going?
This is going to sound weird because they actually have good defenses, but it might be the Chiefs-Texans.
Yeah, Chiefs-Texans is definitely my second favorite. The only other alternative that I'll offer for this one is Steelers-Jags, just because you have so many options for the Steelers, and Fournette is still a really good option on the other side as well. So you have people from both teams that are viable in some form or fashion. But I think Chiefs-Texans is the next most viable options. I think that both Texans receivers are okay in this. I don't think Lamar Miller will be great in this game, but he's all about how much volume he gets and what kind of quality opportunities they give him, and he'll give you that in return, right? I think Watson will be playable in this game. I think Smith will be playable in this game. I think Hill, Hunt, and Kelsey all do very well in this game. So I think that you have legitimately 6 options in this, 6+ options in this game that are all pretty viable. And so, I mean, that qualifies as a pretty good fantasy option for me as well. The only bad part about this one is we were looking earlier today, and if you want to play this game on DraftKings, you have to do the Thursday-Monday slate to include the Sunday night game. I'm assuming they're doing that because of buys, but it almost, because of the Patriots-Buccaneers game and the Chiefs-Texans game, I'm almost enticed to play the Thursday-Monday night game, at least for a couple of lines, just because they have so many extra added options that are really good matchups this week.
It'd certainly be more fun just because, I think those are the Chiefs, Texans, and Patriots Bucks are 2 of the more exciting games, and it lets you play the Vikings or the Bears defense.
That's exactly right. I think it gives you
both good options.
Yep.
So it does open up the options a lot this week. Whereas often the Thursday night game, you're like, why would I participate in that foolishness? It's just, if anything happens, it's gonna be some dope going off, and I don't want somebody getting lucky and playing some dope who goes off.
Right.
So, normally we tend to avoid that, but this week is one where if you can get your act together early enough in the week, which is sometimes a challenge on Thursdays, do it.
Yeah, I think that kind of the way that we're leaning is we may try and get a couple of lineups in before tomorrow, and then we'll just do the rest of them for the Sunday slate. And we'll see how that goes, and we'll kind of play that one by ear. So, all right, I don't have any anything else super important for this week. I think that pretty much covers it. Like you said, it is a bit of a tough week with some backups playing and stuff like that. Also, just with the first week of buys and a brutal injury week last week, I do think that this is one of the more limited weeks as far as major producers. Do you have anything else to bring up? And then other than that, give me your best waiver wire ad this week.
The only thing is, like, be careful of Gronk as far as just, like, pay attention tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
I think he's going to probably play, but it's going to be one of these game time decision things. So just watch. That's all. Just, watch going down to kickoff for him. But play him if he plays. Best waiver pickup this week. Like, if Deshaun Watson, if he's not owned, he might not be.
Sure.
If you need a quarterback, he might be the guy. Will Fuller is a really good option, I think. Actually, he was probably the best one. I'm not excited about the Vikings backfield without Dalvin Cook. It's going to be split between Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon, and neither of them are very good. And similarly, I'm not excited about the Seahawks backfield. If you want to, like, stash one of those guys, you can. But I think it's going to be a nasty committee. I think Rawls is going to be active again, and he and Lacey are going to split the carries. And if Procise ever gets healthy, he and that J.D. McKissick rookie guy are going to split the catches. It's just going to be ugly. So probably Will Fuller might be the best, like, field player for me.
Yeah. So I have to apologize to everyone because I added Will Fuller in all of my leagues that I didn't already have him in. I added him last week. And for some reason, I just didn't say things on stream. And I don't know why I didn't come out and say it. It must have been one of the things, almost like the Tyler Croft, we forgot to play him in DFS this week. I must have just forgot to say it. And I really apologize to everyone because we really, really, we emphasize being a week ahead. Right. And Will Fuller was somebody who easily, I think he was available in 94% of leagues last week. And so I dropped the ball on that one. I really apologize. But Will Fuller is definitely the best ad this week as far as I'm concerned. If I'm going another route because maybe he's added or somebody got him ahead of you or what have you, I understand if you want to add J.D. McKissick as a speculative ad and hold him, but just understand that this is not somebody that you're going to want to roll out this week and start. The game flow, the way that it ended because Chris Carson got hurt is why he got so much usage, and the way that his usage happened was just game flow dependent. I don't think that going in with a game plan this week specifically it will lend itself to giving him a whole lot of work this week. I think that you brought it up. It'll probably be Rawls Lacey split. And then if Procise can get on the field, which he's due to this week, I think that he'll take over a lot of the passing duties as well. But I do understand that because it's a battlefield back there and somebody has to get the work. I understand if you want to speculatively add him, especially in places where it's bigger league 16, 20, I would pay up to get that guy just because there may not be another ton of good waiver ads for the rest of the year. So I understand if you want to add him. I do think that the best waiver ad besides Will Fuller, though, has to be Latavius Murray, just from the sheer fact that he should get the most volume moving forward because he's shown that he can provide that type of back in the past, right? And so if there's anybody that should benefit the most out of it, it should be Latavius Murray. So I just don't think that there's really any other good ads. I told you guys about Elijah McGuire last week. He had a really big run, but he's still going to split a lot of carries with Bilal Powell. He's still going to get work. So I understand if you want to add him as well, but he was sort of a last week sort of thing. Other than that, there's just not really a ton of people that you can really add this week. If you hear more news about Julio being out any further, you may want to add a Falcons receiver, but I still don't love adding those guys. They're just going to throw to the running backs more, right? I would rather trade for one of the running backs, right? And just grab a hold of one of those guys, because still on a per touch basis, they're still phenomenal. They've just been phenomenally productive. So I think this is just another bad waiver week, overall.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot. I'm looking through it again just to double check that I haven't forgotten anything. The other speculative ad you can do in bigger leagues is Alex Collins from the Ravens.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a great offense, and the guy fumbles a lot in hardball. Even said if he fumbles again, I'm benching him. So be aware that this is a Belichick situation where he could just get benched because he fumbled one time and never play again. But all the other running backs in that backfield like suck a lot.
Yeah, they really do.
And
I mean, Alex Collins
Alex
sucks
Collins
too.
is actually he's not very good. But he's provided a spark,
Right.
which the other guys haven't done.
Right.
And it seems like they're going to basically give him a chance until he fumbles, which probably will be this week. But if it's not, then it's a reasonable speculative add in a week that we don't have a lot of options. We don't have a lot of options, but we have a lot of roster spots opened up from all these injuries. So,
yep, that's very true. All right, before we get up out of here, give me what you think to be your best value play this week in DFS, if you have one. It could be any position. I don't care where it is. I don't even care if it's sort of expensive because there's not a ton of cheapies this week. Just who do you think provides you a high upside guy that isn't just who you think is a good value play this week?
I'm gonna give you two quarterbacks here.
Okay.
Dak Prescott and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Ben is discounted a bit because he's playing against Jacksonville, but it's home Ben, and there's always a chance he's going to go nuts. Dak, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the top quarterback this week, but he's priced like it. He's priced like it,
right.
And he's worth it. He's definitely worth it. But I think Dak has a chance to match him in fantasy points, not in goodness, but in fantasy points. And he's $1,300 cheaper, so that's pretty significant. Price drop off, and I think that Dak has an equally high floor and an equally high ceiling as Rodgers, although probably slightly less likely to get to the ceiling.
Okay, I think those are really good plays. I'm going to give you three across the board from a couple of different positions. I'm going to steal yours because we had talked about them already. And Theo Riddick, he's only $4,100. I think he's just a really good play this week for somebody in a week that it's going to be tough to return value unless you pick the best people of the week. It's one of those weeks where you just need to pick people that are going to score a lot of points. I think that Riddick has a good potential to return solid value. I think he's a really good one. Martavis Bryant is only $5K this week, and you pair that with home Ben, and you should get good results. I think he has the worst matchup out of all of the Steelers players, but it's still home Ben, and he's only $5K. I can wrap my head around a $5K player that could potentially get 26 plus points, right? So I do like Martavis Bryant. And then on the defensive side of the ball, because we hate that Bills-Bengals game so much, I have no idea why the Bills defense is only priced at $2,600. I would love to roll them out for that cheap.
Yeah, play them.
Yeah, the only caveat is that in DFS you're looking for people who get touchdowns on defense. They don't get a lot of touchdowns on defense. They're not an extremely high scoring defense, but Dalton does turn the ball over and their line is still not good, and so they could have fumble recoveries, get that kind of thing, and they won't give up a lot of points. So I think that and for $2,600, if you need to fit a cheap defense in there, I think that they're a really good play.
Yeah, I have two more quick ones.
Go for it.
One, I don't know if I said this yet, but you should play the Ravens defense. And I think Alex Collins is also a good bet here. He's $4,000, and it seems like he's probably taken over the job of first down back from Terrence West there.
Yeah.
So in a game that the Ravens defense will probably give them good field position because they're playing against an idiot at quarterback. I'm not as terrified of. I think Alex Collins has a reasonable chance of getting a touchdown just because they'll be in good field position. He might, he's going to be the short yardage guy most likely.
Yeah, I think those are both really good points.
From a Ravens point of view, this game to go a lot like their first two games, where they just say like, okay, your quarterback sucks worse than ours. We're just going to run the ball every play and play defense.
I mean, with the way that their offense has been, that's what they should do. They were at least semi-successful in the first couple of games, right? They ran the ball 40 times, but they were pretty successful doing it. And if they think that they have a better option as a runner now, like, they should continue to do that. So I agree. I think that their game plan should be to hand the ball off to Alex Collins as many times as humanly possible and hope for the best. And at 4K, even if the guy just gets one touchdown, he's returned value almost for you. I mean, there's almost no way he hasn't if he gets a touchdown. So if he finds a way to get in the end zone, which the Ravens defense could put him in really good position to do, I think that there's a very good chance that turns out that way as well. So, but that's all for us this week. If you guys have any questions, once again, make sure to hit us up on Discord. Make sure to get to us on the Twitter. Any way that you can find to get in touch with us, please do it. We want to help you guys. We want to make sure that you make the right decisions. Before you hit the accept on the trade button, get with us. Ask us about it. Let's see if we can figure out maybe if you can get any more for it. If we just think it's a bad idea, what our outlook are for those guys for the rest of the season. And guys, remember, just because somebody's doing really well right now, don't just go away and trade them. Like, don't just trade your really good players, especially with the rate that people are getting hurt right now. Don't just swap evenly just to trade, right? Because you think somebody has a better schedule the rest of the way or anything like that. And then if you are looking to trade, remember with bye weeks coming up, you want to try and get the people that have already had their buys. You get a free week out of that person. You get an extra game, and that can be very, very important for your fantasy for your fantasy season. So that's pretty much all we got for this week. Once again, if you guys have any questions on Twitter, we are at FantasyEliteFB. We're Facebook.com/FantasyElite. And on Patreon, I think we're just Fantasy Elite as well. And then I'll post the Discord in the link and everything. And if you guys have any questions, get to us. If not, we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Stay classy. See you next week.